This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
Make America healthy again. Maha.
He wants to take on ultra-processed foods.
He's going to be fantastic.
Our kids have to understand the role the Bible played.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Cabinet kerfuffle. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. Donald Trump doesn't take the Oval Office for another couple of months, but his steady stream of cabinet picks is drawing a just as steady stream of controversy, perhaps none more so than Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for Health and Human Services Secretary.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. helped elect Donald Trump, so this is a reward to him. And RFK Jr. has within the Trump world a constituency of his own. He's the only one Trump is allowed to rebrand MAGA, Make America Healthy Again, Maha.
Dr. Celine Gowder has concerns about Kennedy's stance on vaccines and also wonders if his plans for some tighter regulation are realistic.
He wants to take on ultra-processed foods. He wants to take on additives, preservatives in food. In fact, many at the FDA have wanted to do this. The question is, will Congress expand FDA authority to regulate some of these things?
Among other recent Trump picks, Secretary of the Interior,
North Dakota's Governor Doug Burgum.
He's going to head the Department of Interior, and he's going to be fantastic.
Burgum, who ran against Trump for the Republican nomination before becoming one of his staunchest allies, has strong ties to fossil fuel companies. He will lead the administration's plans to increase oil and gas production on federal lands.
Caitlin Huey Burns. The U.S. election will have plenty of international ramifications as well. 3 million Palestinians living in the territory known as the West Bank say Trump's election is a threat to them.
Especially his pick for ambassador to Israel, the evangelical Christian Mike Huckabee, who doesn't believe in a Palestinian state. Right-wingers in Israel's government believe the West Bank is Israel's anyway.
To Israel.
And hope Trump will help them take it.
Close to 700,000 Israeli settlers share the West Bank with those Palestinians. Back in our country now, GM laying off about 1,000 employees. Auto correspondent Jeff Gilbert in Detroit.
The cuts will impact GM's salaried workforce, and most are focused here in the U.S. GM says in order to win in this competitive market, they need to optimize for speed and excellence. Adds global analyst Jeff Schuster.
A lot of this is a hedge to what could be happening in the future.
GM's salaried workforce is about 53,000 strong. More than 500 Bibles are on their way to Oklahoma public schools for advanced placement government training. State school superintendent Ryan Walters.
Our kids have to understand the role the Bible played in influencing American history.
Oklahoma, the first state in the country to make Bible history mandatory in public school classrooms. What a scare in the air on board a Scandinavian Airlines flight from Stockholm, Sweden to Miami, Florida. Screams as the plane hit severe turbulence over Greenland, had to make a quick U-turn and land in Copenhagen. Photos show food and carry-on bags thrown all over the place. Amazingly, nobody seriously hurt among those 254 passengers. Officials in New York say the Jennings Creek fire is now about 70% contained.
Hundreds of feet above our starting point, we met a team racing to clear a strip of soil.
Earth and soil will not ignite. So once fire were to creep down this hill, it will hit this vegetation and then die down.
For Peter Mount, this back-breaking work has become the norm during an historically dry fall.
It's long hours, 12, 13, 14 hours a day.
Reporter Tom Hansen with the fire crews there. Some health news for you next. Get up and move. That's the upshot of a new study linking heart disease with extended periods of just sitting around.
The more time they were sitting, the higher the risk they had. There was a clear inflection point at about 10 and a half hours a day of sedentary behavior, where risk really escalated a lot.
Dr. Harlan Krumholtz, who says that finding applies just as much to those who do engage in daily exercise, since that's typically only a very small portion of their overall day. Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, the problem of violent inmates in New York State prisons, a truly heartwarming event in Pennsylvania, and some keen observations shared by the crew at Capital Connection.
The makings for some nice mid-November weather. Believe it or not, high pressure will be dominating, and both weekend days will see some sunshine. Next chance of rain, and we can use the moisture, comes in late Sunday night and Monday in the form of some showers. In the meantime, for the night tonight, still pretty cloudy in a good part of western New York and western Pennsylvania. Elsewhere, partly moonlit, low temps 30s and low 40s. Saturday starts cloudy near Lake Erie. and then clears. Otherwise, it's a mainly sunny day with high temps low to mid-50s.
Thank you very much, Kevin Williams. Checking the stories now making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. Few seem to dispute that conditions are dangerous right now for those who guard inmates in New York State's prisons. But what to do about it remains the subject of some disagreement. Much of the debate centers on the wisdom of the so-called HALT Act, approved in Albany. It limits use of solitary confinement to discipline unruly inmates. Republican State Senator Patrick Gallivan, a former law enforcement officer, tells Spectrum News
they don't have the tools essentially to do the job to be able to help them keep control of the facilities.
But Assembly Corrections Committee Chair Eric Dillon says a rise in prison violence actually predated the HALT Act, so he says he's not convinced that that's the real problem here.
They got to make the case that it makes sense to do so. You can't just say, well, assaults are up. Maybe not all of them are serious, so let's repeal HALT.
Dillon says Assembly Democrats are disinclined to mess around with the HALT Act. The union representing corrections officers disputes Dillon's take, though. They say staff are under siege on a daily basis right now without any relief or concrete solutions to address the violence in sight. Well, get your kicks on Route 86. Another portion of the Southern Tier's Route 17 got a new name today.
After years of effort and a recent thumbs up from the Federal Highway Administration, we're going to swap out that sign. It means that this 32-mile-long stretch of highway here in Tioga County is now officially known as Interstate 86.
State DOT Assistant Commissioner of Operations Ken Bibbins. The new stretch, designated as I-86, spans between exit 60 in Waverly and exit 67 in Endicott. Well, it's already been an anything but dull life for young 16-year-old Spencer Davis. The Blair County, Pennsylvania team is recovering from going into full cardiac arrest on the football field in September. The life-saving difference maker?
An AED is the reason I'm here because it shocked my heart back into rhythm. So it's definitely a need for all schools and companies to have one.
His mom tells WJAC,
the fact that we had such a quick response is the reason that here we are 8 weeks later and Spencer is thriving and doing well.
Spencer is thriving. He's already gotten back and launched a foundation to try to raise AED access across Pennsylvania. Last night they were at an Anyone Can Help awareness fair held in Hollidaysburg.
Within tragedy, you want to turn it into a positive, and we thought this is a great opportunity to educate our community, teach the importance of CPR.
All of that was emotional enough, but the evening also included a video message from perhaps America's most famous recent beneficiary of a life-saving AED.
Hey Spencer, what's up, buddy? It's Demar Hamlin. I just wanted to make this video to offer you my support. You and I have something in common not many other people do, and I know that nobody else around you really knows what you're going through, but I do.
9 in 10 cardiac arrest victims who receive a shock from an AED in the first minute live. Now, highlights from Capital Connection, our Friday roundtable with two Christian watchdogs from our state capitals. This week, Dan Bartkowiak is in Harrisburg. Jason McGuire is in Albany.
I think we're going to have a lot of the same in Albany. I think you'll see a lot more of the status quo at the state capitol. Numbers didn't change a great deal, but I think the tone may change a little bit. There may be a shift because of what happened at the federal level, and there is a reddening of New York, at least maybe a little lighter blue, and that may cause the Democratic supermajorities to rethink some of their policy priorities.
How do things move in Harrisburg as a result of the election? I know very little change as far as the makeup of the Senate and the House. In fact, it's the same way it was.
Particularly in the House, there wasn't one seat that flipped, despite the red wave, so to speak, on statewide races. And really, ultimately, I think it underscores, one vote can really make a difference when it comes on a particular policy. So the more that you can connect with your lawmakers, we always say that throughout the years, but it's all the more important when it comes to such a slim margin.
How and where will we see the most immediate impact of Prop 1 in our daily lives?
Everybody's asking if we're going to see pastors being attacked, churches being attacked under Prop 1. I don't think you're going to see that conflict come very early. I think people, activists on the other side, will be patient on that. They will probably look to private faith-based schools, other institutions, test how the courts are going to rule on this new amendment, and then perhaps years down the road, you'll see greater infringements on those liberties in other areas.
Congresswoman Tenney made news this week. She said that Prop 1 means boys can play girls' sports even if they're not transitioning. Is that true?
Well, there is discussion regarding that, and we think that, again, the courts are going to have to interpret how that will look. But remember that there's already guidance out there on this issue, and the regents are looking to soon vote on that very decision, and I think they've been waiting for Prop 1's passage so they can use that as a prop or as a crutch as to why they're making the move they are.
And then, hey, Dan, it may be Friday on Capital Connection, but it's Sunday in Pennsylvania. We're talking Dave Sunday, the winner of the state attorney general's race. Why is his victory a win for Christians in the Commonwealth?
I'm certainly excited for Pennsylvania's next attorney general. His work as York County district attorney, a lot of positive things happened. The past several election cycles, we've had a Democrat in the attorney general's office, and lately, some of the examples, attacking pregnancy centers, going really after and targeting that. And I'll point out, too, one specific issue when it came to the candidates on the issue of marijuana legalization. There was a stark contrast. Eugene D. Pasquale, as Auditor General, the extreme of saying a 35% tax to encourage with regards to marijuana legalization, and really just the advocacy to see such a harmful policy being passed. And as that district attorney, Dave Sunday has seen what drug use and even in particular marijuana had done to families, and really conveys kind of a pushback when it comes to the recreational retail sale from a commercialization standpoint.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. You can listen, download, or share their full conversation from the news podcast page at familylife.org, or search for Family Life News on your favorite podcast player. All right, your nightly market report's up next, brought to you by Faithward Advisors. Wall Street closed out the week in the red. Concerns about interest rates further derailed the post-election rally. Stocks tumbled. Big tech and pharmaceutical shares led the broad market decline. When that closing bell rang this afternoon, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 305 points to 43,445. The S&P 500 fell by 78 points to 5870. The Nasdaq dropped 427 points to 18,680. Faithward Advisors, a Christian financial planning firm helping faithful stewards do more. All the details are available at faithwardadvisors.com. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
Proverbs 22:3 carries a warning. The prudent sees danger and hides himself, but the simple go on and suffer for it. Hi, I'm Rob West with today's Faith and Finance Minute. You're setting yourself up for financial danger and suffering if you make any of these three big money mistakes. First is living without a budget. You can easily avoid it by drawing up a monthly spending plan. The second is not having an emergency fund set aside, ideally 3 to 6 months living expenses. Without it, you'll constantly be surprised and unprepared for expenses that pop up. The third is not saving for retirement. Ideally, you want to set aside 10 to 15% of your paycheck for the day when you can no longer work. Avoid these three big money mistakes and you'll be prudent indeed. Manage your finances wisely with the easy-to-use FaithFi app. Download FaithFi, Faith and Finance from your app store, or learn more at faithfi.com.
Well, thank you very much, sir. Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, just your average, everyday American hero.
Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. The weekend is here, and it shapes up by November standards to be a pretty decent one. It'll be cloudy for most of the night tonight in a good part of western New York and western Pennsylvania. Skies will be clear, relatively, in central New York and eastern Pennsylvania. Low temperatures in the mid-30s to low 40s. Tomorrow, plenty of sunshine, but it's a cloudy start to the day near Lake Erie. High temps in the low or mid-50s, and some sunshine Sunday with high temperatures in the 50s.
Thank you very much, Kevin Williams. Finally, at 5, true heroes often look just like you and me. Dave McConnell was taking an afternoon nap in his Georgia home, unaware that home was on fire until alarms started blaring.
You could not see out my back door or my windows. That was pretty scary.
Well, just then, along came Dylan Betts, who could have driven by the smoky home, but he didn't. Instead, he rushed right inside.
The smoke was just a thick wall of just black smoke, couldn't see through. He heard my voice and he came right to me.
McConnell and his family will be forever grateful to that good Samaritan.
You think you could have died? Yeah. My youngest daughter calls him our hero. We got a lot to be thankful for.
Why stop and risk your life to rescue a total stranger?
Why not, right? I mean, that's America.
Indeed, and that is the America we live in this Friday, November 15th, 2024. As always, we thank you for joining us. Have a blessed weekend. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.